Alright guys, welcome back to episode 4 of the Porsche with Peanuts project. We got a lot of things accomplished in this episode. I mean, this is probably one of the most in-depth episodes that we've had yet. We, of course, troubleshot a problem with the braking system. There was no brake pressure, and also the clutch was stuck to the floor. So we had to try to figure out what was going on. In the process, we did find a brake leak in the rear. We replaced it. We had also another surprise in the process of doing that. But we got that taken care of. We also went through the process of bleeding the clutch, which didn't go exactly as planned. We had some really interesting things going on, which I actually found a different technique, something different than what I found out on the internet anywhere else, of bleeding the clutch. What our problem is, we went to do it the conventional way, of course, where you remove the starter, you loosen the bleed screw on the slave, and you begin, bleeding the clutch by having somebody pump. But ours was stuck to the floor. There was no fluid coming out. It was totally full of air. So I actually bled the clutch by myself with a different method. Closed the bleed screw, and we actually followed a different process. I'm not going to say too much. I'm going to let you see that in the video coming up. And so we got those two very, very crucial things taken care of. I show you the process of replacing the brake line, where the actual leak was. And it's really good to help you also troubleshoot. It goes along with the whiteboard that I actually put up before this video. So that's all said and done. We also have a slight surprise in the end, so look for that. But it is something of progress. So again, watch the video if you like it. Go ahead and say you like it. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And of course, let me know what you think. All right, guys, let's go. So I'm here with my buddy Alex. He's the one that's actually feeding it in, and we are basically just putting more fluid in, allow it to go through the system with the bleeder open. Hopefully it should start spilling down pretty soon. I'm going to go underneath and show you. Okay, so where are we at here? We are underneath the car, towards the rear, and we're looking at where the brake line, right there in those two clamps, I'm going to try to get my finger as an indicator, right there is where brake fluid is spilling out because this is corroded. And when we press on the brakes, it squirts out. You see it squirting all down here. Thus, the problem with my, and this is again, there's in direction, there's the front of the car heading that way. This again is the problem with the brake pedal and the clutch pedal because the system isn't closed and it's leaking out fluid. Here's the after, this piece right here. It was actually had a hole in it. I'm just trying to show you now directly here. This is the part that actually, if you look at it, the orientation is this sits up and it goes over to the right side rear. Or the driver's side rear brake caliper. This is the part where it kind of has its highest point up against the chassis, and then it goes down into a T. This was exactly where it was squirting off from, and here is the other end of it. So the other end's pretty small. It's right here. So it actually goes like right here up against the chassis. Sorry about the camera. And it goes down into this piece right here, which this is where it goes into the T. The T basically takes the brake fluid from the front of the car after it goes to both counters coming down the tunnel, and then it breaks it off in a T so that each side of your passenger rear and your driver rear has braking fluid. And this was the faulty part right here. We're going to go ahead and get a new brake line made up and pulled, and that's going to be another day. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and put the system back together and see how it's going. Okay, so I have my new brake line here. I got it fit this size by taking off the old one first and then taking it over to O'Reilly's. This was $10 for the line. I think $4 or $5 for this tool, which is a bending tool, which is what you'll need. So I'm going to kind of hold it and bend it back into the motion, not doing anything too crazy, too sharp, but into the old mode. And then we're going to mold or the old way because I have the old line sitting right there. And then we're going to go ahead and try to see what happens when we assemble this and put this back onto the car. All right. Okay, so we went ahead and bent the new brake line to the old one. You can kind of see, I mean, I can't set everything right in front of you, but it's pretty close. There's some liberalness here, but the basic shape is there. The guy gave me a little bit longer line because he didn't want to break it up. We're going to see how all that goes, if I can get that mounted in there. But yep, this is the new one. We're going to go ahead and try to start mounting this back in and see what we come up with. Okay, so we are back underneath the car, and I want to show you. All right, looks like we have the new line installed right back there. This is in. So I think that the aftermarket ones you get from O'Reilly's, the thread is a lot longer because the old one met up, but this is snug and tight in space. I had to run it up and over the transmission and back down the other side, and it's sitting, let's see if I can focus, right there into that T. So this first line you see right here is coming from the back of the, coming from the front of the car. This is the line that's running to the rear, and I'll show you in a sec the other side. And so here it is from the other side. Now I haven't got everything pinned back down yet. We're going to do some testing just to make sure there's no other leaks, no other lines to replace. That was my old line. This is my new line coming down right back here. So this is going to passenger rear, still intact. This is coming from the front again of the car, and this one right back here is the other one. So I obviously got to clean up a little bit, make sure everything's pushed up far enough so nothing's really rubbing too hard when the car's running to wear down your line even more. And then of course fit that back into there. But we're going to see if we're in business, if we have any more links at this point. Okay, all right, we'll see what we got. So what you see here is that, yep, it's leaking. It's the other line. So replace the driver rear, and that's the passenger rear that needs to now be replaced. And I went ahead and did that. I'm not going to show you because I already showed you how to do the one side. We're going to move on forward from here, but yeah, what a mess. So now we are technically underneath the car. The starter has already been removed. Here are the cables from the starter. And we are looking at, from the starter to the left of it is the slave, which pushes into clutch. This is the bleeder valve. We filled it up. This is a 7mm. I'm trying to get a better picture of it. 7mm. Of course, at this point, it's corroded. We got to actually replace this. And so we've let this out. The fluid should start spitting out here, especially when we press the pedal. But we put something in the system. We're going to try to see what we can do. If we get something spilling out, then you tighten this back down, of course, and you get the air out your system so you get a clutch pedal return. But we'll, again, with the 944, there is no spring or anything like that. It's all a hydraulic-based system. So once you bleed the air out of it, your clutch pedal should start to spring back and return. We don't know what the condition of the slave is at this point. We're just troubleshooting. By squeezing this here, air bubbles show up here. Squeezing this here, air bubbles, let the bubbles out like that. So we're going to pause for just a second and look at that again, but I'm going to explain what's actually happening. Right now, with that image, I have the bleed screw. The bleed screw is actually closed, of course. I'm at the top by the brake reservoir, and I'm actually pumping the line from the brake reservoir to the master, okay? So what I've already previously done at this point is I've pumped the clutch a few times, and at first it wasn't returning at all, so I was actually going down by hand and pulling it back and forth, okay? Build some pressure. Then I took a broomstick, put it in the seat, and pushed against the clutch to make sure it stayed in place. Then I went back to the front, or to the engine area, and just slowly pushed down and up and down on that line. You'll see through the reservoir that there are actually bubbles that are popping out. Now it's important to keep the reservoir pretty topped off at that point so you can see it happening, but the bubbles were shooting out. At that point, then I would either remove the reservoir the cap itself, or press that little button at the top that releases air to get the air totally out the system. I repeat the process. Now, this wasn't the most efficient. It took a few times to do it, but it actually worked out pretty good. And the clutch slowly started getting spring at the very top, slowly a little bit more, then all the way to the bottom, and then eventually it would go down and pop right back up. So the clutch was blood. Let's watch it one more time so I show you what I mean. By squeezing this here, air bubbles show up here. Squeezing this here, air bubbles, let the bubbles out like that. Oh, what an episode! We got her moving. That's right, forward and reverse. It was a little creepy. Now, the thing about it is the engine doesn't sound great right now. I need to replace, for one thing, the wiring harness. I noticed that there was actually a short in the system, so I'm going to replace all the wiring, and hopefully that should take care of that. But I also have to take a look at the DME unit itself, the computer module, because at first the car wasn't starting, so I had to tap on it with the screwdriver, and then all of a sudden it started working to some degree. So we may have to look at a resolder, which I'm going to, of course, look into and get back to you. So thanks for tuning in. This is excellent progress. Until next time, guys.